Hi, I'm Tanya. I'm very excited for today's video. Okay, so the other day I tried outlining only using Pinterest and my imagination, like associating ideas, right? And it was so fun and I had so many cool ideas. I'm kind of thinking maybe this is going to be how I outline from here on out. I'm not sure. Yeah, you can watch me go through the whole entire process and watch me brainstorm live in this video. If you can see it right there. Yeah, but in this video, I just wanted to share really quickly how I did it and some tips because I highly recommend doing this. It was so creative and the result is pretty to look at and also functions as a very quick reference. So yeah, let's get into it. So this is how I did it. First, I went to Pinterest. Pinterest already knows like my taste and sort of the vibe of my story, so that helped. Anyway, so I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled, and I just any and all images that spoke to me for whatever reason, I downloaded them all. Maybe a few too many. Yeah, I downloaded them all, and it doesn't have to make any logical sense at this point. Though I will say that at this point, I already had, like, this already gave me a ton of ideas because just like the images by themselves, I was essentially making up in my head, just little snippets of story. This is the character going, like, leaving a store as they are tailing someone. You get the idea. Then I went to Canva and I just created a custom document with plenty of space and just added in a bunch of empty frames where then I added in the images. If you went full magpie in the step before this and you just have way too many images, I had how many? Yeah, about 280. That's a little bit too much. um, then like pre-select the images before you plug them into Canva would be my advice. And then comes the most fun part. So just think of it like a puzzle, where you like first you gather all the images that have sky blue and all the images that are clearly like the wall of a house. So I would make little piles or clusters or groups of images that kind of made some sort of sense together, like a bunch of things that might make a heist scene or a bunch of things that like seem like they happen in the same location. You can do this however anything that makes sense to you, right? So then I would take those clusters and arrange them in some sort of timeline, in some sort of chronological order. That's why I had this long, long document in Canva. You could also, of course, think of it like horizontally. In this ordering, these clusters, I would find even more connections. And that's where the gold is, where you find like interesting ideas, is in the connections. Um, so, for example, suddenly I would see that the person who did this is the same person who also did this. Don't they look so similar? Isn't it so? Yeah, anyway, that was so cool. Just that kind of thing. I would find even more connections in trying to make sense of in what order do these things happen and like what is the connecting tissue between them. Yeah, and that's essentially what I did until I added in literally every image that I had pre-selected. Well, not literally, because one single image I couldn't find a home for, 1 out of 100. So yeah, but yeah, you don't have to do it until the very last, of course. But honestly, I had like cool, great ideas until the very until the very second to last. Yeah, so doing this process, I got so many interesting ideas, a lot of them directions I wouldn't have gone otherwise, honestly. I think this brainstorm is making my story much more fun and high stakes than I had previously allowed myself to do. Honestly, because I don't know. I think I need sometimes a push to go a little bit further. Maybe you don't, but yeah, like for example, I decided to kill off one of my characters, sort of, kind of, pretty much, but and I don't think I would have decided to do that without this push. My first tip is I think a big part of why this worked so well was, as I said, I was recording myself for a video and I was speaking my thoughts out loud. And I think that helped tremendously. So, yeah, maybe record yourself as you're blabbering as you're blabbering to yourself. You could also do this with a friend. This could be so fun. For the first step, where you just scroll Pinterest, I would say set yourself an alarm so you don't spend all day, because if you're anything like me, you're gonna go, ooh, one more, ooh, a couple of more. Just let me scroll a little bit more. Maybe the perfect, most amazing image is like right underneath, and let me just scroll forever, and then you end up with 400 images maybe, and then everything else is going to take longer as well, depending on how deep you want to go. I had 100 images, which was a lot. It wasn't too much, but well, it gave me like ideas for like half a book or maybe an act, I'm not sure. Um, when really I was just looking for like the next plot points. I'm not mad at it, but also with less images, that could also be cool because, you know, restrictions aid your creativity, right? So, I don't know. Yeah, I would also say that the result I had in the end wasn't so much a full-blown outline, because there were still a lot of very vague ideas in there and like plot holes and questions. I might go in and brainstorm a couple of key questions. I might add text boxes and graphics and question marks or whatever, just to highlight the plot holes and questions. I might also just leave it as it is for now and like leave the plot hole questions for later. You know, it kind of depends on how detailed you need the outline to be, how much surety you need before you draft, and how much you want to discover as you draft. You know, use it as at your own discretion. Yeah, I think that's all. This is the way that I used it, the one and only time that I did. But I can already imagine a bunch of variations. And so here they are. Okay. Number one is brainstorming ideas for things that might happen in your story, writing them into text boxes, arranging the text boxes like we did the images from Pinterest into making some sort of sense, and using that to brainstorm an outline. That's actually what I've done before this. And it worked wonders for me as well. It does rely more so on you coming up with ideas initially, but you also come up with cool ideas when you make sense of them together and you order them in different ways, you cluster them, all of that. So that's one. Two is using images and just bits of information that you already have about your characters to give you ideas about how to flesh them out more. It's actually something that I might do because I don't know my characters that well. So yeah, I'm excited to try that. Another one, you could like pick out words from the blurbs of your favorite books, or just browse your bookshelves and choose any book at random and take any word from their blurb. Yeah, writing out those words and arranging them in some way to help you come up with like a story premise, or maybe help you with like the bird's eye view of your outline. That could be cool. Yeah, you could also use like snippets from short stories, snippets from songs, snippets from your aunt's email, snippets from your own writing, whatever, and like let those inspire you for some ideas. Or you could go out and take your own photos, just walking the streets or your house or whatever, and just taking a photo of anything that catches your eye, and then do the same thing that you did with the Pinterest images, or like a mixture of them. Uh, you could like go to one of those stock images, stock material sites like Pexels or Pixabay, and go to videos. They have like these stock videos, often like 3 seconds or something like that. Add them together, like put them into some sort of order. You could intersplice them, you could add sound effects, you could layer them upon each other, you could like overlay them, you could add music, you could use you could use your own voiceover, anything. All you need is like a very simple video editor like CapCut or Clipchamp or whatever. Oh my god, I literally want to do that. That would be so fun. Mm, yes, I might do one of those for another video in the future. Yeah, and you could use that to also brainstorm plot points. You could use it for a scene where you know what happens on the surface, but you don't know what like the emotional depth beneath is. Anything. Yes. Oh, this is yes. And that brings me to another idea. These stock sites usually also have sound effects. Like they have images, video, sound effects, music, graphics, probably. So you could just scroll the sound effects section and just choose anything that sounds interesting or whatever, mysterious. And then you could try to just listening to the sound effect, try to come up with an idea what it means within the context of your story. You could use, I don't know, a still image that represents a scene or a setting, so also you can close your eyes and just let your mind conjure images to go along with the sound effect. Or like another idea of what I think I might want to try is use two images, or an image and a word and like a stock video. You can also film your own stuff and then let that inspire some sort of metaphor. I feel like that could be cool to help you with more vivid descriptions and language. Or another idea that I think I mentioned in the other video is like snippets from songs or books or whatever, to like a mood board for not for your story but for your voice or your style. I don't know, this very simple principle of taking two ideas and letting them together spark something new in your mind. I feel like that works wonders for, at least for my brain. Yeah, I feel like you don't need to wait for inspiration to strike you. I feel like this is like a tool that you can just whip out and it's going to give you something. Yeah, I can imagine. Like, give me all of the ideas. If you can come up with even more ideas, which I'm sure you will, drop it in the comments, because I'm in my let me find a process that is super fun and works perfectly for my brain era. So yeah, I want to know. I'm curious. Tell me. Anyway, see you in my next video. Goodbye!